in the summer, supported by MasterCard, and we'll be on our path to the next generation of doing that. And I think the other point about it is that whether or not you are using a smart card, whether you're using a key fob, whether you're using your mobile phone, however you're going to do this, in whatever means you're going to do it, and we're going to make all of them available to you, we're going to finally, for the very first time, break down some of the artificial barriers that have existed. The artificial barriers that exist between MTA agencies right now and the artificial barrier, or maybe the natural barrier, called the Hudson River, which we sometimes treat as a national border. But we need to break through that. So, as I said, I think we're on the verge of seeing this change in the use of information technology and how important it is to people. Now, one more point about London. If any of you have ridden the transportation system in London, you know that everybody in London does exactly the same thing. You go down into the tube, you go down the stairs. When you get to the platform, you look up and you look for an electronic sign, and it tells you when the next train is coming. And when I came back to New York, I was reminded of the very special way that we do that here in New York, which is that we lean over the edge of the platform and we look for that white light. Now, it's changing. It's changing. I was at 110th Street today, and I got to the platform, and the sign was working, and it said a train in 2 minutes. And I stood there, and someone who was with me said, "You're not really going to stand there?" I said, "Absolutely, I am." And we took out the BlackBerry, and we checked, and the train came in 2 minutes. And it's happening. It's happening right in front of us right now. By the end of this year, we will have countdown clocks in at least 100 train stations. By the end of next year, we'll have them at least 200 train stations. And frankly, I think we're going to get way past that because we're starting to see this change happening. But even that is not enough, because I came in out of a meeting this morning where I was telling some of this story, and somebody looked at me and they said, "But really, I want to know whether the bus is coming before I go downstairs or whether the train is coming before I go downstairs." And I said, "No problem." I said, "Do you have a BlackBerry? Do you have an iPhone? Do you have some other device in your pocket?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "That's the answer. We're going to get it right to your phone, and you're going to know before you leave the office about whether or not that train is coming, and you can time yourself going right down to see whether the bus is coming as well." This is so fundamental to changing the experiences that are there. So I believe we can do it. But, and here's the big but, if we're going to do it the way the MTA has done it for the past 100 years, we're going to do it that way, we would do it in our way. And our way is that we will manage the hell out of this program. We'll manage it so well that we will put in yesterday's technology tomorrow, and then we will wonder why nobody is happy about what we're doing. And along the way, when lots of other people will come up with other ideas about what to do, when people will look at us and say, "Isn't there a better way to be able to do this? I know how to do this," we will stop. We will carefully explain to them why the way that everybody thinks to do it is wrong, and we will proceed in the way that we've learned how to do it ourselves. I don't buy that. So, I have to tell you that when I was still in London, I set my computer to start. I was in the process. I'd been nominated by the governor. I hadn't yet been confirmed by the state senate. And as you would expect, I became more and more interested in what was happening at the MTA. And so I set my computer to give me Google alerts for the MTA. And along the way, sitting 3,000 miles away, and frankly, without knowing any of the details, I began to pick up a story about a situation in which an application developer was trying to do something, creating, I think it was an app for an iPhone, and the MTA was in fact standing in his way, or her way. I don't know who the person is. I don't know any of the details. I don't know any of the details. I'm reading this in the newspapers. I'm reading this on the blogs coming through. And I just sat there and I said, this cannot make any sense. And so I'm asking you today, let's use this conference, unconference I guess is the right phrase, to open a new era of collaboration between the MTA and the application community. We're ready to admit, without any hesitation, that our way of doing business doesn't work to be able to do this. I'm also ready to admit that if we can harness the power that's in this room and multiply thousands and thousands of times over across the country and across the world, we'll be a heck of a lot better than we will do if we're doing it ourselves. Your apps, your ideas can actually be the foundation of that transformation that I talked about before. And again, I tell our organization, be proud of the fact that we fixed the car fleet, but the next step on the car fleet, going from 150,000 miles between failures and breakdowns to 200,000 miles between breakdowns, is no longer transformative. But getting information to people in a way that they can now make decisions about what they're doing, in a way that no longer treats our transit system as one of the few black holes that's left in the world where we sit there and wonder why we don't have information, that can be transformative for our transportation system. So I think that the things that we can do together, that you can do off of the data that we provide, can not only help our customers, but frankly, they should change the way that we're operating our system as well. It should help us to gain knowledge about what our system is doing, and if we're clever, and if we think carefully about what's happening, it should help us to understand, probe into problems, probe into issues, and begin to set out even a different MTA that will be there. I think you can relieve the MTA of administrative tasks. I think that you can free us to do what I hope we do best, which is to run the subway, bus, and commuter rail services. And this is our opportunity to be able to do it. And as I said, with the signs that are going up right now, we are on the verge of being able to do it. So here's the kind of sports analogy I would give to this. I came back to New York, and I have to admit that one of the things that I missed was basketball. And I'm a big Knicks fan. And I have to tell you that coming back to New York this year and being a Knicks fan wasn't exactly uplifting. Now, I'm fully convinced that the Knicks are going to get better next year. But if they get better, it's likely because they're going to harness all of their money and use it to sign LeBron James or whomever else they're going to sign. That path doesn't really work for the MTA. We won't be signing the MTA equivalent of LeBron James to work with us to be able to do this. It's also clear that we're not going to go down the path of having some really good draft picks that's going to help this team. Because frankly, we don't want to choose among all of you as to which is the best thing for us to be doing. We're going to count on the team of walk-ons. We're going to count on the people who want to help to be able to do this. Now, I heard a story about something in Boston. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'll tell you the story. The story was that they took the data that they were getting from their buses with the location data that they had, I guess their trains and buses, and they finally made it available to the application community to be able to do things with this data. And that the first applications arrived and were on the scene 24 hours later. Now, I don't know whether that's true. If you guys really want 2 or 3 weeks, that's okay. We can deal with that. But let's make the change. Let's take this as the opportunity to make the change. Now, earlier this evening, I believe that Ernest mentioned new data that we're about to release. And our tech team has been setting up the data. And I am told, I can say this, right, Ernest? Say it. Okay. I am told, and I know you guys will check, so that's why I have to check, that these data sets are, as I speak right now